Hello. Hello. Welcome, guys, to the first episode of Beyond the Zone podcast. Oh, I'm muted in Discord, apparently. Got off to an insane start. How are you doing, Harry?
I'm doing good, thanks, man. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. Let's not pretend like we weren't in Discord for an hour before this.
Definitely not just planning it all out perfectly for our first episode.
Yeah, we definitely didn't prepare this like 3 hours prior to the start of this podcast. But yeah, I'm pretty
And
excited to talk today and have actually a little bit of a different perspective on podcasts since there's not that many Fortnite podcasts going around.
yeah, essentially, like what we want to do is have sort of a coach's perspective on Fortnite in general and bring that in a podcast form. I know there's Ballers and obviously Levens, but I feel like we want to have more of a coaching side of things, sort of give tips and tricks as well as talking about our thoughts and sort of predictions on other things, talking about the meta, talking about certain tournaments coming up and all those sort of things.
Yeah, for sure. And this is probably the best time to do it since we have Dreamhack Anaheim just around the corner, and we have the new season that just came out today, which is really interesting. Something we're definitely going to be talking about today. Speaking of the new season, let's start off with our first topic, actually. Uh, New items.
So mainly what I want to talk about with there's been a lot of new changes, decoy bombs, C4s, traps being removed, bolts, action sniper being removed, launch pads added. But first one I wanted to really talk about was traps being removed. And for myself, someone who believes in a lot of sort of having multiple play styles in the meta and sort of having completely different ways you can play the game, smart players or players who take smart fights or players who just key and take fights constantly or try and show off their mechanics as the way of sort of taking those fights. I think right now, with them removing traps, it could be one of the worst things they've done in the meta. Um, Mainly because of the fact that it forces this narrative where you have to fight and there's no sort of way around it. Because beforehand in last season, there was sort of the worry like, oh, I can't just get into someone's box, I can't just W key, I can't do all these sort of things. But now with the removal of traps, there's no sort of repercussions on W keying. You can now W key for to your heart's content. You don't have to worry about getting trapped or anything. You can just jump in someone's box, and it doesn't matter that this guy has taken all the walls and has piece control and whatnot. That has the worry of having piece control is just lowered so much more. All you have to do is take their wall, or not even take their wall. You just have to meet your classic. And honestly, I think it's like one of the weaker things they've done in this update, 100% in my opinion.
It takes out a lot of the skill as well for a lot of like mid game fights and stuff. Because
Yeah.
most fights in this meta just start off with either you beaming a player or sniping a player, and it ends up in this weird kind of battle of box fighting where you don't really want to get inside the box. You have to either rely on taking your ball or taking a 50-50. But most of the time, I can see it from both sides, to be honest. Because for a player who doesn't play on zero ping, it's something that's easier for me to just meet your phase in and actually take those fights and those 50-50s if that's the way you want to choose to do it.
Yeah.
But it
No,
also
I'm
forces a really like a more aggressive playstyle mostly.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think that like there are two ways to think about it. Like that it does actually help people with higher ping, like players who cannot actually take walls and struggled in that way. This actually benefits and is a buff to those players a lot because instead of, oh, you've beamed him and you've cracked him and now you have to take forever to sort of take his walls and all that sort of stuff and like slowly pin him down. Now instead what you can do now is you can just get in and you can just take as soon as you take their wall, you have full control of the fight. You can get in if you want. You can play the same before, you can play the same piece control. It gives you more option when you're the aggressor and gives you less option when you're on the defensive. But then you got to think on the other side, which is the side I sort of think about a lot, is like the methodical fights are going to happen a lot less now. The way you
Mm-hmm.
sort of pick at the players, like, okay, I'm trying to pin him and pinch him in, especially in duos. And it did happen in squads as well, as much people didn't like it. Is like you were able at the top level to sort of pin people down and sort of pinch them and make it so that you're able to take the fights you want to take. And you have to sort of, as well as a defensive player, you have options, you have counterplay. Instead, now if you get beamed by someone who's either sat in the bush or someone you don't see and you get cracked, it's a lot harder now to sort of come back from those fights. You don't have the trap as sort of your shall we say, like, trap card. Like, you don't have that up your sleeve to sort of just go, okay, you can get in my box, but I still got traps that I can bring back the fight with.
There's nothing to stop someone from just getting in the end. And I feel like a lot of fights are just going to end up being quicker, since if anyone's even played Arena today, you just see that instantly players just get in. As soon as they hit your wall once, they're just going to ramp up behind and get in. And as a defensive player, if you have to actually run away, if you are that player that has to go back and heal, you have to it force you to constantly build out. It makes these fights end up being a lot quicker and end up being a lot less skillful as well, I think, in the end.
No, 100%. And also we can sort of go on to another item which has been added back, sort of which comes into that, is heavy snipers. And now with the addition of heavy snipers, like, there is even less counterplay to the defensive. There's less counterplay. There's not like, okay, I can, like, at least I know I can hold my wall and I can predict when he's going to pickaxe or whatever. If he just brings out a heavy sniper and takes your wall, like, it's like there's nothing you could do. It's like a lot less counterplay. And also as a defensive, if you are, for example, you get double heavy sniped in duos, or you get heavy sniped RPG in duos, like, there's no counterplay. I just think as a sort of, if you get hit or if you get the first beam, the fight is so much in your advantage. But sorry, if I say if you get hit or you're the one on the defensive, the fight is so hard for you to take now. So hard.
This might even just transition to another discussion people mostly have, is the rise of controller players in the last season or two, of all these controller players coming out of nowhere and coming up throughout the ranks. Do you think this actually just puts them more at an advantage, because they already have like most fights start off at an instant health advantage then?
Yeah, no,
and then they instantly get in.
No, it's a weird one. You don't want to say like, oh, controller players are OP, but when the meta is forcing it, so good aim is rewarded. When you have aim assist, the good aim will matter. Having that like little bit of pull, even if some people say it's like literal aim, but some people say it's not much. If you have some sort of advantage with your aim, it doesn't matter. It will give you an advantage in the meta if the meta depends on it.
For sure. And speaking of the meta, we have a new item that's been added recently to the patch called decoy bombs. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to use it yet today, or...
No, I have. I've used it a bit. It's good. It's good. Did you play Battle Labs by any chance? I don't know if you did.
No.
Because they had them in Battle Labs, which was really interesting. Battle Labs was essentially, you know, the old playground field they used to have, where you could just jump into the map and play with like 16-man lobby in the actual map instead of playground field now, which is you go play zone wars in it.
Yeah.
But they had decoy grenades in there, ally and enemy decoy grenades, which is really interesting. So what would happen in those games is, because there was so many decoy grenades, which is why it's been laggy today, is why I think it's been laggy today.
Because of the decoy grenades?
Yeah, it's the equivalent. Like, but the player count went up, so you could get to player lobbies in Battle Labs of 250 players or even 300 players because of the amount of decoys in there. And it would literally be like summer skirmish. It would be so horrendously laggy. Like, it would drop frames, the whole lobby would freeze. And like, so when I heard AIs are in this and decoys, I instantly thought like the servers can't handle it. I'm thinking, if there's Storm Surge games, if we're in late games and people chuck down decoys, the server can't handle it unless they've had super changes, unless this engine change is going to make the servers more stable. Lobbies are going to struggle so hard because there's been no customs yet. I know in customs we found out, or you found out, there's no decoys. You can't have decoys in customs.
No, they don't work. Yeah.
No, but it's interesting why they're in arena though. Then in that case, but yeah, that's my main worry, is the servers and how the servers are going to handle it.
I think the server thing is something that just happens every single season. It's kind of a weird thing to expect from a multi-billion-dollar company, that as soon as something new comes out, you already expect the entire server to lag and for the game to be unplayable for basically a week until they hotfix something, which is such a weird thing. I think in Fortnite, Fortnite's the only game with an esports scene where the players actually actively lag in the end game. Can you imagine playing CSGO and then you have a 1v2 situation, all of a sudden he's on 30 ping and he can't kill the person? Like, it's ridiculous. But it's something that you have to expect every single time.
It's ridiculous. It's so stupid. Like, yeah, as you said, like multi-million-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, probably the highest gross profit company there's been for games in so long. Like, and they can't have stable servers. It's just I don't get how it works. Like, I don't get how people can spend like nearly £1,000 on a or €1,000 or $1,000 on a PC, and it will not run 144 FPS consistently. Like if you played any game, you could play GTA, you could play like any of like the triple A games or the double A games or whatever, and you would always get max FPS if you bought a good PC. But for some
Yeah.
reason, Fortnite, a game which was popular because anyone could play it, and that's like its whole motto is anyone can play it, anyone can do whatever they want on it. But now it's like, oh, you want to play it at max FPS? Oh, well, consoles can only play it at 40 FPS now. Switches play it at basically 20 FPS. And now PCs, which are nearly worth £1,000, can't even play at max FPS either. It's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
I think we've kind of gone off on a tangent a
Yeah.
little bit from the actual
Yeah.
discussion at the start. But
Yeah.
if we look back towards decoy bombs, I think they have some sort of use within competitive. I'm not sure you can actually carry them. I wouldn't carry them over any traditional loadout. But they have some interesting things you can do. For example, if you're getting aggressed in the box, you can throw down a decoy bomb, and the player has no idea which one's the actual player.
Yeah.
There's some uses such as you're aggressing a player, you get them low. You can throw decoy bombs at either side of their base, and they instantly start breaking that base, pressuring that player. There's a lot of creativity, and I'm really interested to see what the community has to offer in the future for these kind of items, because I think there's probably a decent ceiling to what you can do with them.
No, exactly.
And they also drop mats on death, which is kind of an interesting thing if you could use them as some sort of refresh. Unfortunately, you can't really kill yourself or kill the decoy bombs by yourself, so you're gonna need someone to kill them for you to actually get the mat refresh. Because I think they drop about 150 mats per decoy bomb if you finish, if they end up being despawned. Yeah, so that's an interesting, and really interesting mechanic that could be used and abused in the future.
No, I agree. I think if like I'm just thinking in like solos, like you're getting 150 metal, brick, and wood for an item, like that 150 wood, brick, and metal can upgrade your weapons, like, and it upgrades your loadout so much with that. And talking about upgrade machines, well, we can go up to upgrade stations and talk about how they're no longer in POIs anymore. They're no longer not just in POIs.
Yeah,
That
they're spread across the map now.
Yeah, exactly. Which I actually think, in a weird way, like I think it helps the game a lot and the way it'll flow, because I think a lot of people would base their loot pass on getting an upgrade machine or getting an upgrade station, then refreshing their mats. But now there's so many around the map. Majority of the time, especially with changes in the first zone, you can get it on rotate every single time. I think, and I think it's really really good. I think it helps the players. It helps like the players who do not land at POIs get similar loadouts with people who do land at POIs. I think it helps the players who have smart loot pass get the loot they need and then can farm up a lot, and then they're able to get extra loot because of that, because they've taken a smart path.
I think it also brings a further discussion into landing outside of POIs now, because before people would be forced to go into POIs to actually upgrade. And it gives you so much more creativity from a coach standpoint and as well as a player standpoint to find those weird little rotates where you can get that loot path with just enough mats to actually just upgrade that weapon in the end.
No, exactly.
And there's just so much more opportunity now, and I think it has kind of a weird butterfly effect towards the end of the game, because I think the dispersal of players is going to be so much more now compared to before. I think a lot of players are forced to be around POIs, especially in squads, trios, and dual game modes. People tend to force POIs since there's the most amount of loot and it gives you the most opportunity to upgrade in the end. But I think this change is actually just really good because you can have so much more opportunity to do different things.
Exactly. And no, and we can sort of talk about it a bit more. And talking about the comp side of the game, I actually think with the addition of all of the new places as well, which we'll talk in a bit more detail about, and also with launch pads, that we're going to get so many more stacked games because there's going to be less people 50-50ing off spawn. There's like there's so many more POIs, there's so many more landing spots that people can go to. People aren't having to either land in a POI or get 2 chests. There's now ones where you get, okay, I can get 4 chests here, I can get 3 chests here, or I can do a path which gets me 6 chests, or I can get Slurp Truck and I can get fish, but I only get 2 chests. Like, there's now options instead of the last season where I actually think there was not many options for landing. It was you land a POI or you land near floppers, or you basically your landing spot's not good enough.
You're not limited to just those POIs anymore, or those flopper
Mm.
spots. And
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless,
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
with the new addition to these tunnels that's been going around the map. I know you and me were sitting around in customs prior to this podcast, looking around for little tunnels,
Mm.
and there's a lot more than you'd actually expect, and it opens up so many more possibilities to rotating and rotating safely. I'd be really interested to see if the community ever finds every single rotation with those porta potties. I don't know how many there are.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot more that still haven't been found yet.
No, exactly. And like that's the thing. Like we sat there for probably how long? Like maybe an hour, and we found so much more than we thought there was. Because when you play arena, you land at your land spot, you rotate in, you look for a fight, you take the fight. You don't just spend the time just looking for the porta potties by themselves. And when you actually do, there's actually like rotations you can take from them. Like there's some way you can take, like if we take the one from Misty Meadows, for example, there's you can take the dumpster from Misty Meadows to the middle island. It's in the middle island in between Lazy Lake and
Hmm.
Misty Meadows, and then you can take the porta potty from there to the fishing spots outside of Lazy Lake. So you can travel that distance within 5 seconds, which you'd never been able to do before. You can get from Misty to Lazy in such a short time. It gives you more opportunities for kills, gives you faster rotates, and it can change your timings completely.
And there's also a weird risk and reward to it, though. I've seen a lot of players camping these porta potties as well, finding quick kills. And I think it's kind of a difficult thing, especially for us as coaches, to find these spots and to look at how rotations are changing now. Since the whole map has been blown wide open, there's so many more things you can do, and so many different factors you have to take into account now when you're actually looking at loop pathing, rotations, and all those things.
No, it's just within the first day, there's so much more opportunities available, which is just us as coaches and comp players. That's all they want. They want opportunities. They don't want to play a game where they're forced to do something, and something which allows opportunities, and in a
Great
good way
transition.
and a bad way. I would say personally, in my opinion, would be launch pads. I think launch pads means that you're allowed opportunities to position poorly, but it gives you opportunities to also W key and get away with it. I think launch pads in some ways will help the meta, but in other ways will be negative to the meta. What do you think?
I think it's a weird thing now because we haven't really been used to having launch pads on this new map. We've always had no launch pads on this map. I think yeah, it's difficult because we as a community and a player base have just adapted to the no movement meta, and having launch pads back adds another element of RNG back into the game, which I don't think was necessary from a competitive point of view,
No,
because
exactly.
it allows good, or not good players but bad players, to make these lazy rotates which they otherwise wouldn't have survived in. We can always go back to the discussion of how it's going to affect the servers, but if you have an extra 10 people with launchpads making these free rotations where they otherwise would have died, it makes the games a lot more stacked and a lot more difficult. If you are playing for placement, for example,
Mhm.
it gives them
Yeah.
an easy exit strategy in the end.
Yeah, I mean that's the main thought on my behalf as well. Is like the players, because we were getting to a point, and I'll touch on it in a minute, where I thought the last season, if they just had more events, could have been one of the best seasons for competitive, because
Hmm.
we were getting to a point where the same players were starting to place. Obviously, the only thing I'd say was floppers, which I think we can talk about in a
Oh, we
later
can
time
have
about how.
you can have 4 hours about a flopper
Yeah, it's
episode. Yeah,
literally
there's so much you can
floppers.
tell you about floppers.
But we were getting to a point where people were understanding the meta properly, but also the same players were starting to place, because there was players who were doing well in the meta, and I feel like, in my opinion, the smarter players were starting to do well, but also there was opportunities for W keyers and players who like to play aggressive. Now with launch pads as well, I just think the smart players will not get rewarded for their good positioning, because people who position badly can just launch pad to the good positions. Like the early rotates people take and all those things they do and the timings they take to get into those positions are just not going to get rewarded anymore.
I think the removal of mobility and movement has also just made us so much smarter. I think in the last 2 seasons, the introduction of coaches into gameplay has just exploded as well. Prior to the season, I don't think there were many. Not that I was aware of. There's not many coaches or need for analysis, since a lot of the game was figured out. Like you wanted to launch pad in between this and that zone, and it was done. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to think about the rotation. You didn't have to think about which side of zone you wanted on. This new season has also introduced the theory of dead side of zone, which we I think never have ever talked about prior to chapter 10. And it makes the game a lot more strategic in the end, which I think it makes it for the players a lot better, since it rewards the players that work the hardest in the end. Not to take away from, for example, Mongo, Mitro, and Benji's insane run during trios, but that run is basically impossible at this point. Without the mobility, without those kind of job spots. There's some aspect of RNG which can still affect a lot of the players, but you definitely did see a lot of the players that are shining and coming out as the smart players just being on top of those leaderboards and constantly placing, because they are putting in the work. It might not be noticeable from their Twitters or from their YouTube videos, but they have those rotations now. They know exactly what they have to do, and they have the map knowledge to make those rotations. And now I feel like the skill gap is probably just closed immensely because there's movement all of a sudden.
Completely agree. I couldn't agree more. And I was watching back, and I was just wanted to touch on Mitro, Mongo, Benji. I was watching back, and I watched back one 50-50, so I was watching and I saw them position at the bottom of the hill. The zone goes up the hill. And I was like, there's no way they can make this rotate. It's impossible. And then I look, and then they place 4 launch pads, and they literally, I wish I was joking, they launch pad from they were like south center to they launch pad to southwest, and then they launch pad into zone, and then they launch pad to height from there. So 3 launch pads, sorry. But literally, in my opinion, that doesn't take anywhere near enough skill. Yes, the skill is in the early game fighting, but when all you have to do is get to 50-50 and then have launch pads, and then you can take height, and all you have to do is pressure the people off of height. In my opinion, that's a lot less skill than having the timings, the rotates, understanding where dead side is, understanding what side of zone you should be on, understanding how you should take fights, when you should take fights. Are you going to be third partied? All these sort of things where you think about, where beforehand, if I'm getting third party, I'm going to launch pad, I'm going to rift to go XYZ, I'm going to do whatever. And it just nullifies all of that. All of the hard work we put in as players, a lot so as players, into learning the rotations, it hasn't been nullified, but it's been lessened. All that hard work has just been okay, so you put all that hard work into rotations, and now we're just going to put in mobility back. So yes, the positioning matters, but it's not going to be rewarded anywhere near as much. It's
kind of weird how now there's less punishment because you have these extra strategies, but there's also more punishment if you do get beamed because you don't have traps to defend yourself. So it's kind of balances out in the end, but I think the Launchpad edition is definitely a bigger punch towards the competitive scene than the trap removal in the end. 100%. And talking about changes, we now have this weird little in-game mechanic where you can throw shields and heals out towards your teammates. I posted a clip earlier today on Twitter, which got a decent amount of, kind of blew up. It had pretty good views. And I don't think a lot of people know that, but you can actually throw your shields and your heals like a grenade, basically. I think it has about the same range as a grenade, which I don't think is too game breaking. I don't think it changes too much in the end. It makes some sort of team play possible, but I don't think it's game breaking. What do you think?
No, I don't think it's game breaking. I think from a sort of gameplay perspective, I think it's really interesting. I think it's a mechanic we've had for a while where you could throw snowballs and all these sort of stuff in emotes, but we never had the mechanic where you could throw shields. Now we did have chug splashes, but sadly the minis don't work in the same way. You don't throw it and it splashes, because then we'd just be saying chug splashes are back, and we all know chug splashes are very overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
Basically broke the meta. But no, I think for throwing shields, I think it's really interesting. I think it just helps the flow of fights in duos a lot. And I don't know if anyone's tested if you can throw slurtfish as well and floppers, because I think box fighting, and not box fighting creative, more so in like games and mid game fights, if you're able to throw that loot far enough to, like, so say you're like a couple of boxes away, maybe he's 3 or 2 boxes away, and you've edited the walls and you're able to throw it, you can keep your 1v1 fights happening. You don't have to go support him and drop in the loot, then hold the walls whilst he pops it. Instead, what you can do is you can just throw it and then pressure the other guy who's pressuring his wall. You don't have to just sort of play the defensive side. It's
Apparently,
sort of,
you can throw fishes.
oh, if you can throw fishes, that I think that's really good. I think that would be really good for game
I
for
would
team mode.
kind of disagree with some of that, since it kind of puts fuel on the fire with the whole flopper discussion, right? If you kill a person in zone, you are forced to sit in zone and eat that flopper, whereas you can actually just throw those floppers ahead of you and keep
Very
on
true.
tanking zone, and it kind of has this weird snowballing effect where if you kill a person in zone with floppers and he has 8 floppers, you can throw the floppers ahead of you, keep on going, throw the floppers again, and keep on going. It kind of is a weird thing that you can do now. I wonder if there's any intention for weapon throwing. I think it could be an interesting mechanic where you can throw an RPG, for example, up to your teammate, or harpoon gun up to your teammate,
That would be
or
good. That would be so good.
I think that can open up the competitive scene entirely, because there's so many strategies you can implement. You can RPG one guy, and then you can throw your RPG to your teammate, and then the person doesn't expect that your teammate has an RPG all of a sudden, and you have these strategies where you go 10,000 IQ into the future. It's like a 4D chess match in the end, which is insane. But I don't think they would ever add that, since it's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
To implement. But the possibilities are endless. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, so I was thinking, like, when you just say guns, I was like, what if you could throw mats? I think that would make the flow of fights so nice. If you could throw mats to someone where, like, they're low on mats, you don't have to run to their box, drop them, and then run back. If you can just drop mats, like, throw mats at someone, that just makes the fight sort of flow endlessly. You don't have to, like, be like, okay, we've got pressure in this fight, but we have to stop for a second to drop mats and drop heals and all this sort of stuff. Like, it helps to keep the flow going in the fight. I think that's really good. But yeah, on your topic of floppers, I didn't properly think about that, and I think that can actually be pretty disgusting. I think that could be pretty bad, and I'm thinking in a duo's perspective that, like, if, say, for example, like, your teammates in zone or something, or, like, say, for example, you're in your, like, in the safe zone and your teammates making the flopper play, you can just chuck them to him and then just run off, and you play the game out whilst he's playing flopper. Like, those sort of things can happen. But the throw mechanic, I think, is a nice touch. I think it's one of those things which the top level of players will be able to perfect, but I think lower down, like, people won't utilize it as well as it possibly could be.
It also opens up some weird high ground replays where you have a teammate in zone that can just eat up floppers, and if your teammate has 4 more floppers in the end, you can throw those floppers towards them and just keep on feeding them. You also have, like, different angles you can take, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. I think throwing heals is kind of it's a cool mechanic. It's not too game breaking. But is it necessary? Probably isn't.
Yeah, it's probably not necessary. It's a nice touch when, like, I mean, Epic are throwing the kitchen sink at the patch this time. I mean, literally, they are going, you asked for something new, here's literally everything and anything.
Except an FOV slider.
Yeah, set FOV. We'll never get FOV. RIP.
Not happening.
You will be missed. 1440 by 1080, best res. But no, yeah, no. It's just like, at this point, there's been so much that's been added that, like, there's gonna be some OP things. There's gonna be some pretty poor things. But we basically got to just try and find the, like, balance here. And hopefully what Epic does is they give us some communication on the comp side of things, and also give us communication on what the items are going to do and where they're going to go forward with this. Because what I don't want to happen is they chuck all these items into the season, and then that's it. That's the season done. They're not going to buff, nerf, or anything. They're just going to leave the items. What I want is them to chuck all these items, and 2 weeks later to be like, okay, the Mythic Scar was a bit too OP. The Mythic Tommy Gun was a bit too OP. Or maybe, the grappler with infinite uses. Maybe we want to lower that down to maybe 20. Like, 20 is still a lot, but it's not infinite. Infinite, you literally can just go around the map and not care. Like, hopefully they give us some communication, and praise to God, we get some patch notes once in a while. But at this point, like, I'm happy they changed stuff. Like, I loved last season as a comp season, but I always do like some change. So it's a weird one for me personally, this new season.
I don't think they ever have really changed weapon values. The only thing I can remember is they once changed the amount of stink bombs that you could stack, and they changed the mini count. But other than that, they haven't really made hot fixes that are game breaking or changing like that.
Grenades was the last season. That
yeah,
was the one last
grenades was the last thing. Yeah, but that was all of a sudden after the grenade epidemic, where everyone and the mother was throwing 10 nades at every single squad, and that was just insane. They're still in a pretty bad place, but they're a little bit better. Yeah. Speaking of game breaking, Minigun is back. Micho is happy. He is making money again. He's becoming unwashed. Not that he was washed ever in the first place. But no, he's not washed. He's not. But Minigun's coming back as so much implications on box fighting now and late game rotations.
I don't like miniguns at all. I really don't like guns. I think they're not fun. I think they pressure someone without the person having much counterplay. I just hate having no counterplaying in esports games. I think it really just lowers the skill gap a lot if you can have an item which lowers the amount the other player can do. Like, minigunning someone's box, there is no counterplay. They have to sit there and hold that wall. Or if they try and retake, they're just going to minigun down. Like, you have to hold that wall. I just think the minigun was like in my opinion, such an unnecessary addition. Like, I don't know what you feel, but I think it's so unnecessary with everything that's been added.
I think it's just an unhealthy addition to the game. There's so much you have already, and I feel the loot pool is already so congested that we don't need a minigun. There's no place for the minigun in this meta. You already have not as much mats as you have, right? You have 1500 mats in solos. You have 3k as a duo if you have even that at the end of the late game, and all of a sudden you have a minigun spraying at you with 600 SMG bullets. There's nothing you can do. There's no counterplay. Late game, one person can just decide to grief you and it's over. Yeah. And there's so many repercussions to your mat count and to your possible rotations that one person with 300 bullets in his minigun can waste away 450 mats, and then there goes your game all of a sudden. It's unhealthy. It's not necessary. Yeah, and low pingers are happy, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's what I was going to touch on. I think that was the main point, was ping. Like, if you are someone who can't hold a wall, the minigun's the worst weapon in the world. If you're someone who can get all the bullets through the wall, you're the happiest person on the planet. Like, that, and again, like, I don't think we should be, like, and I don't want to go too much onto a rant, it's like, we shouldn't really be basing our game on whether our FPS or our ping can handle it. Like, that doesn't seem like a balanced game, in my opinion. But I think, like, for this season overall, I think there's a lot of good changes, a lot of bad changes, but I think we gotta wait till, like, either custom start playing or until the next events happen, till we can properly see how the meta's going to develop.
It's also, I think, going back to that thing, it's we're probably the only game that has these kind of exceptions where ping has a giant factor. Your PC has a giant factor sometimes. It's just these things just keep on adding on top of each other. I remember that Fortnite used to have some sort of interest into the community. They had I believe they used to fly out pros to test out things back before creative was even out. They had those testing sessions. I'm curious. I would love to hear why they stopped that. If it's something that's just not profitable anymore for them to do, or is it just not necessary for them to care about the opinions of the competitive players?
Yeah, it's just a weird one. And something I heard a long time ago, and I don't know whether it's true, because it feels like it when you actually think about last season, they were looking for QA testers, quality assurance testers, for the game, for Fortnite. And they were looking for it for a good month and never got one. So I don't know if they ever got one because what it feels like, a lot of this stuff are bugs, unnecessary bugs, like the edit bug we've got today, like the other bugs we had last season, like where you'd build a wall, and even if you didn't build that wall, or if you did build that wall, it'd say edit every single time. So sometimes you build a box, you think, oh, I've got that wall, when it's not actually a wall. It feels like there's simple bugs which are coming into every single patch, this from chapter 2 onwards, where it feels like they don't have the testers. People aren't like testing it week in, week out. And when we're waiting 4 or 5 weeks for a patch and then there's still bugs, it's like it feels like there's no testing involved. It feels like, yes, they're not flying out players, as you said, because they did do that. Or it feels like we are just their testers. Fortnite is just a cash cow for them, is what it feels like. But we'll see. We can't hate them too much. They've made a game which actually made a lot of people's lives. Also, a game which is probably still one of the most popular, if not is still the most popular game, and still has, even at sometimes if it's unhealthy or not, has one of the biggest esports tournaments and esports competitions out of any other esports.
I think that's part of the problem, though. It feels like an abusive relationship in the end. Like they keep on hurting us and keep on hurting us, but in the end, they just keep on giving money and money and putting more money into it. It's an awful comparison to make, but it feels true to some level. The only reason that players do keep on coming back is because of the money. It's because of the viewer count. There's nothing else that's stopping them from leaving to another game. If there was another game all of a sudden that just comes out, they will leave in an instant if the price pool is similar.
Yeah, which is why when Project A comes out, you can see a lot of people to talk Project A. Like I bet Fortnite's gonna flick of a switch. They're gonna be like, okay, World Cup, here you go, or okay, here's every bug you want fixed. It's like the pickup bug's still there from last season, and I'm just like, how? But I think yeah, as you said, we're getting off topic. But what is your final thoughts on this season, shall we say?
One more thing we did actually just forget to talk about
Yeah.
was explosives and C4s being added, right?
Oh, true.
C4s are back, and it's just another like we said previously, it's just another unnecessary change which could have been tested. Every single person, if you had, what I feel like Epic needs to do is they have to run like in-house customs. I've seen that testing before. Since a lot of the testing comes in the videos and stuff and in the content, and I believe they play customs with about 15 nerdy Epic developers sitting in a room, and then the best player ends up winning, and it's not an environment where you can test these things properly.
No, exactly.
They would benefit from a testing environment, or something like League of Legends, for example, a public beta environment where these items can be tested, and in a closed environment with no repercussions. And you could even incentivize it by giving people a V-Bucks or something like that. Even, yeah, probably won't happen since that takes away a bit of the profitability. But these small incentives can go such a long way. You have a beta environment for a week before the patch. You change it up 2 days before it, and then all of a sudden you have a patch that works better with little investment from them.
Yeah, and well, I know so many people who would, just like how League PBE works, is literally they would want to play the patch 2 weeks before, so they're ahead of the meta for the next. So like, if you made the public beta testing like open, as in the name public, like everyone would play it. Like, and that might be part of the problem is they don't want people to go off this game. They want people to stay on this game. They don't want to test from outside. But why don't they just get 100 NA East or NA West players, and there's so many pro players who would literally pay Epic to test for them. Literally, they would pay Epic to test for them instead of having bugs left, right, and center.
They can also, I believe Epic also works with the practice server, and they're constantly in the Discords talking to them. There you go. There's your testing environment. There are the players that would test every single thing for you if they wanted it, with zero incentive, with insane background knowledge of the game. There's your perfect testing environment. Use practice server. They have search and destroy tournaments with practice server. Why can't you have a testing environment with the practice server and communicate together like that? It's as easy as that in the end.
Yeah, exactly. But
And yeah, moving on to a kind of a weird thing is the addition of henchmen and vaults, which is kind of going back to the minigun and the heavy sniper, because I think heavy snipers are only available in those henchmen's vaults and stuff. Do you
heavy
think
snipers are actually available everywhere,
are
which is
they
huge.
okay? I
Yeah, yeah,
haven't personally seen one.
yeah.
Well, yeah. Do you think that the addition of henchmen and vaults is going to cause another Mongo, Mitro, and Benji like scenario from season 9?
Season 9, 10.
From the trio from the previous map.
Yeah, yeah, from trios, from trios. Do I think it? I think it has the possibility to do so, but the reason why I think possibly it might not is because of the fact that there's so much spread. So instead of we had the scenario where Micho, Mongrel, and Benji would be the only ones in the lobby with that loot. There's gonna be 4 trios with that loot,
Mm-hmm.
which I think could be even worse. If you have 4 trios every single game with insane loot, it makes the lobby for the other 29 trios so hard to play because they just have such buffed loot, which you can't do anything about unless you just want to 50-50 them off spawn. It's so much harder. And talking about that as well, is we can talk about there's been talks in the moment because as we've been looking, there's shadow sort of like bases and there's ghost bases.
Yeah.
And what the rumors are at the moment are that the different alliance you choose or different agency you choose gives you different access to different places. Well, if one team like has a trio player who choose shadow, does that mean that one player, like if they land somewhere which is a ghost base, do they now not are they now going to get shot at? Like, it actually changes that a lot, and from a comp side, that's really, really good at all. Like, it makes it so unhealthy because you have to, like, base your squad on the same alliance you choose and all that sort of stuff, and it's just like, we just want consistency. That's all we want.
It's
And
another element that's unnecessary to add. But I also think that it might change some things up where if one of your duo is Shadow, the other one is Ghost, then only one person can get in there. But that shouldn't be a problem in the end, right? Because that if that person's looting path is on that side, then it's fine. They can just access that place and they'll be fine with it.
no,
It'd be weird if it'd be weird if you have an inherent advantage just by picking a faction. So if the henchman didn't shoot you, for example, in the middle island, and a player has chosen Ghost by accident at the start of the season, having no idea that has the implications towards the end of the season, then you're gonna have a problem because that person is always at a disadvantage in the end.
yeah, it's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one. We haven't had anything like this before, so we're just gonna have to wait
Yeah,
and just
it's
see
bad
what
to
happens.
speculate for now. But
Yeah.
going back to the point of Mongo, Migo, Benji dominance, I don't think it's going to have too much of an effect. Obviously, there is a problem with having 4 squads being loaded to the T with heavy snipers, miniguns, an infinite grappler, for example, a drum gun. Like all these things can add up to some sort of consistency, but it's not something I think you can compare to the retail loot back in the old days where you have 25 launch pads all of a sudden, helping you go from zone to zone to zone to zone.
No.
But I also think that it's still gonna have an effect. It's gonna suck for the other players in the map, but it's also gonna bring rise to yet again. It's gonna bring rise to the mechanical players. It's already the box fight meta, and all these box fighters and people who are insane off spawn fights are just gonna keep on dominating. And I'm gonna expect that the smarter players, the less mechanically players of the likes of Tohash, for example, not to name, not to call Toash out or
Yeah.
anything, but like those kind of players are not gonna force drops at the yacht or are not gonna force drops at the shark spot because it's just not necessary. It's hard for them to win those fights. You're gonna have 4 spots dominated probably by Mongo, Benji, and then you have another spot dominated by Savage and the rest. And then you're gonna have these set spots, and those teams are just gonna take it away and just dominate at the top. I feel like, but it's not going to be the same effect as before.
No, and it's one of those things where we just sort of have to wait and see. I think yeah, I do agree. I think the loot this season, I think what they've done is inflated loot a lot this season. especially with the introduction of, we talked about upgrade stations everywhere, and also the sort of even better like god chest, which we'll call Neo chest or whatever they'll end up being called. But yeah, like it just inflates the loot. So players who now land safe, also they do have upgrade machines, but also then other players who land at the highly contested spot, it's that risk versus reward, which they're getting rewarded for in the end.
Yeah, yeah, in the end, at the highest echelon of competitive, these players won't be punished for it, right? They're gonna have that spot to themselves, and that's it. And I think it's gonna be another. It might be another situation where Benji makes a cool 100K per week, depending on the prize pool. It might be that situation. He might. I think he is sitting there in this chair, very happy and smiling on his way to LA right now.
Exactly. And who wouldn't be if in the last time where there was mobility and all this stuff, you made like ridiculous amount of money? Who wouldn't be happy at the end of the day? Who wouldn't be going on Twitter and saying this is the best meta ever and everything like that? And players who didn't perform as well wouldn't be going on Twitter and saying this is the worst meta ever. Of course, we all understand that, but we're just speculating in the moment, seeing what might happen.
I have a question here from the chat relating to the announcement from Chapter 2. If I switch over to this here. I think he means this sentence here. With the addition of 11.5 update, Chapter 2 Season 2 is now expected to launch Thursday, February 20th. Chapter 2 Season 2 will feature with multiple We can't brief you on the season secrets just yet. What do you think? What was that referring to, you think?
So let me get the exact quote. So it was...
you want the link in Discord?
Yes, could you link it to me on Discord so I could have a look? I have no idea actually.
It's probably just the theme towards the the spy theme, but will feature dog shit POIs with multiple controller players. There we go. We fixed it for you. You're welcome.
Or you could just literally get rid of that and just add mobility, inflated loot, W key season. Here we come.
Untested season.
Literally is. It is just W key season. But we'll see how it goes. But yeah, good stuff.
Right.
Good stuff. Should we start talking about Dreamhack, the biggest probably tournament we've had for... I'd probably say it's probably the biggest tournament we've had for 3 months, because as much as Winter Royale was bigger in terms of prize pool, I think that this tournament actually has bigger names going to it, and it's a better format where you'll get the right result at the end of the day. And I think I could probably say since the last Dreamhack, this is the biggest tournament we've had.
Yeah, I think other than AO last month, it definitely is the biggest tournament. And it's the one that has the most players going to it. AO obviously was invite only. Anaheim is anyone can join. It's bring your own computer. I think it's gonna really show who is some of the best solo players in the world right now.
Yeah.
Speaking of, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was literally gonna take the words out right in my. I was gonna say, top players. Do you want to start on EU or should we start on any East or any West? What do you think?
I think we should start at looking at Dreamhack Winter actually before we focus on what's happening now. We should look at Dreamhack Winter and see what happened there. So Dreamhack Winter was, I believe, last winter in December or something like that.
It was. I'll get the exact date.
Let's see. And it ended up with Marine taking first place, MCS and Lex in second,
Lecce in third,
Wakey, Blake, Kula Aqua, Doko, Orcam, Caxi, and Lunerf. And of that top 10, I believe only 10 of them are controller players, which is kind of interesting since a lot of people have this discussion of controller players being on top with this weird, with this new map that is super open, super susceptible to being shot at.
Yeah, and I also think that because last season when you were leading up to Dreamhack Winter, the thoughts on how solo was going to be played or solos were going to be played still hadn't fully shifted.
Hmm.
If you look at how solos were played in the Elite Cup, I feel like I was a lot more methodical. When you look at DreamHack Winter, it felt like there was still a lot of tendencies from the old seasons because the cash cuts weren't fully where they wanted to be. There wasn't the same prize pool. And when you go to DreamHack Winter, I feel like there was a lot of just sort of the meta hadn't fully developed into the meta, which was you take smart fights, you understand dead side of zone, you understand safe side of zone, you understand okay, I need to start a fight by beaming someone. Like if I think a lot of controllers players, if they knew that now, I feel like there could be a rise in it in this dream hack this weekend.
I also, yeah, I think a lot of the game has been figured out a little bit more. People have a lot more time to prepare and to look at what the best possible play is. And the thing is that a lot of these names are names you constantly see, right? You see these players in War Legends, you see them together in those custom games. Everyone knows every single person. Everyone knows their drop spot. Everyone knows exactly how to rotate around to those players. And I think with this tournament being in LA now, it's going to be super different compared to DreamHack Winter, where I think there was a lot more randoms, a lot more unknown players, since it was a lot further away and a lot less accessible for a lot of the pros.
Yeah, it was a lot harder for people to get to. Like, if you think about the NA players that went, there was very few that went. But if you think about the amount of EU players that are going, there's a lot more EU players than NA players, like 100%. Even though EU is very far away from LA, but there's still also there's OCE players going. There's some Asia players going. Like, there's LA is a lot more accessible to everyone else than Stockholm was for the rest of the world, apart from, and even for Europe, it's North Europe. Like, for people who live down south or live in Eastern Europe, it's not an easy place to get to by any means.
It's also, I think that Bala had this discussion once in this podcast, is that these players that go and that are full-time Fortnite players need to make these investments into the tournaments. You have to be making these trips towards Anaheim to also expand your brand, get your name out there, but also just to make that money. I think for a European player, the investment is upwards of, let's say, $1,500. And if we look at the prize pool, I believe first place gets 30,000. I want to say off the top of my head.
Yes.
For Anaheim.
I will double check now for you, but yes, like the investment needs to be made if you want to be the best in the world. You have to prove yourself at the highest level. If you're, and for someone I don't want to be calling names, someone like Mongrel who has, as we talked about, made more than enough money. The money isn't the problem, like isn't the worry for him. It's more so like I feel like he definitely, someone like him should be, who's a role model to a lot of players, should be going to these events and should be trying to prove themselves. So yeah, 30,000 for first place, 15,000 for second, 13,000 for third, and then it goes all the way down to $500 for 76 to 100th.
I believe Mongo's reasoning for not going was due to, I think he has an ear problem where he has problems with equalizing pressure in his ear, which which means he can't really fly. I think that's his reasoning behind it. But it's being worked on. He said on Twitter from what I saw. So hopefully he gets better and he is there to compete. Since I think it would be awesome to see him on LAN. I think the last LAN we did see him at was World Cup, I would say.
It was his last LAN. Yeah,
so it's long overdue to see Mongo on LAN, and unfortunately for the viewing experience, all the cameras will be shaking. But you know, as long as Mongo's there, we'll be happy with it.
Literally on his low sense, literally the entire desk. I don't know how people in World Cup didn't like whatever. Literally, if someone was next to me shaking their entire desk, that would be the most.
Oh, I would be angry. Yeah,
I'd be so angry.
So going into DreamHack Anaheim, obviously a different field, a lot more accessible. We have from the lists we've seen confirmed of upwards of 60 to 70 professionals going, with a lot more unknown players going in as well, and a lot more players who aren't confirmed also going. The likes of players like Clicks are going. We have, I believe Booger's also going. I want
Yeah,
to
there's
say.
players like Unknown, Dubs, Bizzle, Zay, there's Saf, there's players from like NA such as Epic Whale, Sam, Turtle Tavern, and then we haven't even touched on EU yet. There's players like Benji, Savage, Marin, as you talked about, Frey, there's players such as the MCES lot, there's
Mm-hmm.
players such as Zeno, Jaspy, there's some Swedish players going. There's a lot of top players. There's probably overall, I'd say, there's going to be 200 top players go, maybe even 250 top players, and we don't even know the full range of NA West because NA West is a region that, from people from EU, is hard to track because of the time zone. It's so hard to track.
Yeah, I think a lot of players will have difficulty naming at least 10 NA West players, even if they are involved in it, because a lot of them are a lot unknown. There's a lot of pros that are still constantly placing in cash cups in those squads environments, and don't have a stream, they don't have a YouTube, they're just out there to grind. So
Yeah.
I'm really expecting a no name or an unknown player to actually just come out on top, or to be there at the top level, at least in the top 10. I think that's something that happened at DreamHack Winter as well. Frey, relatively unknown prior to DreamHack Winter, wasn't really someone you did see too often in the competitive scene. Although he did have really good placements. If you take a look at his Fortnite tracker and his Fortnite Gamepedia page, he has placements in semifinals, in squads, he has placements in trios, but all of a sudden this one tournament changes his life, changes his careers, and he's turned into a full-time Fortnite player all of a sudden. So these tournaments, going back to that point we made before, are worth it. They are the investments you have to be making if you're a full-time player. There's no excuse.
No, exactly. And talking on the topic of Frey, well, for me personally, Frey was someone who I only discovered from DreamHack. I was watching Destiny Jesus viewing party, and he knew about Frey, and he was talking a bit about him and expects him to do well. And his name at the time was Pure Frey, and he had the flopper meta down to a T. Unfortunately, he had a couple of games at the start of the tournament which really let him down in finals. But overall, like, yeah, now he's been picked up by Nakama, who has good players like Minzo on their roster. And now they have, like, he's on the top roster. And you said he's now going full time. He's a player who has in my opinion, one of the best mentalities in EU. He
For
always is
sure.
like, it's my fault. It's my reason why this went wrong. RNG isn't the reason. If RNG was the reason, then random people would be placing. Now, for someone like him, his mentality is like, literally, it's one of the best. It's the best you could have in Fortnite, in my opinion. And you can learn a lot from him. And I recommend anyone to watch his streams. And he is streaming. He's going to be streaming over the weekend. So if
Yeah.
you are going to be watching DreamHack, I would try and tune into him, give him some support. He's going to. I personally think he's going to be doing pretty well. And with his playstyle, I think he has the potential to possibly even win DreamHack, or if not win DreamHack, I think he definitely come top 20 in my opinion.
I think, yeah, he definitely has that mentality to win, and he has a great support system behind him. He on Twitter is always an advocate of aim training. He gets coaching, I believe, from Destiny's Jesus as well. There's a lot of things where he just keeps on focused on, and he's committed. And yeah, definitely a great streamer to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely, he looks at his stream a lot. He looks at his chat, and he always explains what he has to do and what he wants to do. So a great learning experience if you go and watch him. Looking at our players to watch, Frey was definitely amongst that list. But personally, I wouldn't really put him at the top of that list. I believe there's a lot of players who have a lot more to offer, especially on the LAN environment. And looking at that list, we have this nice little graphic here, looking at the top 8 players we think are going to do well at DreamHack.
Yeah, and one of them I wanted to sort of pick out is someone, sadly, we haven't seen for a while. And I know I'm jumping from EU to NA West,
Mm-hmm.
but one of my favorite players, Sam. And Sam is a player who I have loved
My
watching.
boy.
My boy Sam, literally the baller god Sam, someone who is a part-time coach in his spare time, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Who's someone who really believes in that side, strategic side of the game, and I think he could shock a lot of people in this dream hack. The only problem I really have for him is how if he gets into finals, I think he does fine. My problem is if he doesn't get into finals, like, it will be because he doesn't get enough points because he's not getting those impact frags. He's not taking those mechanical fights. And for someone who's not seen as the mechanical player, landing at Slurpee, where if you look on Twitter and you've been following so many West players, there's 7 to 8 players who are landing at Slurpee in those top 100 players that go into Anaheim Customs. Like, it becomes very scary for him, completely scary. But from someone who has had experience at lands, who has been to AO, who has been to World Cup, come second in World Cup, has adapted to different metas, I think he'll have no problem dealing with the pressure. My only worry for him is, can he deal with the mechanics of the other players? And I'm not saying he's not a mechanical player. I'm just saying, does he have the mechanics on the day to outbox fight the players, or outfight them, or maybe even play out early game fight them? Because it's a completely different ball game when you're against the top players in the world.
He's not. He's also not a player who places that consistently, I would say. If you take a look at his PRP page, he placed 80th in Australian Open, which was arguably the biggest tournament for this year. I don't think he has that much. Yeah, he doesn't have that potential. He has that brain. He has his brain to help him with those things, but he doesn't. He lacks the mechanics, as you mentioned, and the box fighting technique to actually to deal with those big lobbies, to deal with those open lobbies. I'm really interested to see how his game plan changes from AO towards Anaheim. I would be surprised if he still lands Slurpee. If he hasn't changed it up since AO, since he, being a coach, has to have analyzed his games, has to have looked back at what he did wrong in those games, and he has to change something up. The simple as that. Otherwise, he's going to that tournament for nothing.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be one of those players. You have those players who are either going to pop off, and I think he's going to be one of those. I think we'll either see him top 10 or we won't see him in finals at all. I think he either has it in the, he'll have it on the day or not. Because if you think about it, going into World Cup, no one expected Sam to come second or even battle with Booger to win. Like, he was battling with him probably for the first 3 games. But he did, and he came second. Like, he has that potential. As we said, he have these sort of mechanics, and the way he will win, as you said, was through his analyzation of his own gameplay and seeing what he can do better from AO. Because AO, he would be really gutted with it, flying all the way to Australia and not putting in a performance he'd be happy with whatsoever.
I think you can also make a big comparison with Psalm to someone like Zayt, who isn't someone you would expect to be the mechanical kind of player, but someone that all of a sudden you see late game, he's in high ground all of a sudden. He's one of those players who you have no idea how he does it, but he has the kind of magic that he gets those good positions, and it really is a thinking player. Looking at Zayt's drop spot here compared to Zexro and compared to the rest of the island, it's kind of an interesting dynamic here, since Zayt has that vision on Zexro. He probably knows exactly where Zexro lands. Probably not a fight he does want to take in the end.
No, I mean, it's land buff. It's land buff. Zayt always gets a land buff. We always know it. Like, when he goes to AO, as you said, he gets on high ground. You don't know how he's done it. He gets on high ground. And if he goes to World Cup, you're expecting him to do well. And even not even just land buff, it's big tournament buffs. Like cash cups, he doesn't care. He doesn't want that small amount of money, even though if it racks up, it counts. To him, he's like, okay, I want the squad FNCS. I want to win that, even though he didn't in the end. That's why he wanted to win. All of these things that he thought, he always goes for the big events. He is the big time player.
It's kind of a terrible mentality to have, though. I feel like having no interest in cash cups, it's a bad thing to do. Not focus on those tournaments and looking at any sort of competition without any sort of seriousness. But somehow Zayd does it. I don't think it's something most people should follow in the end. You should be focusing on those tournaments, any sort of cash cup stuff like that. Those tournaments are important. They build up your mental strength. But Zayd is a veteran in the scene, so he already has that mental strength. He doesn't need to build that up. I think not many people should look at him for guidance in terms of competitive. Maybe at his rotations and his competitiveness, but definitely not at his mindset, I'd say.
No, exactly. I was gonna say, like, the way he plays the game is beautiful, but I think the way he like thinks about other players and thinks about the competitions could definitely be improved on. 100%.
Yeah, for sure. And another interesting dynamic we have here is the fight for retail. Retail definitely a insanely contested spot on the map. Somewhere where you have pretty easy rotations into zone. Mostly zones pull towards retail or they're just outside of it. So you don't really have too much difficulty rotating in. Retail is currently contested by, I believe, 3 players in total. You have the likes of Benji Fishy, Marine, and Yaspe, who all land retail if we look at Dreamhack Winter from last year, with
Mm.
Marine ending up winning Dreamhack Winter last year. And I believe Benji didn't land there last year, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I think definitely Benji landing there could shake things up, even force Marine to leave that drop spot.
Yeah, 100%. And then another player, and I know he's not on the graphic, but another player who is landing retail is Repulse God. And Repulse God, they did some stats and some data on the OCE cash cups, and he's number one for solo cash cups. He's the best solo player in OCE for this season, for this chapter, and he lands retail. And he said, "I don't care who's landing here. I'm going to land here with you." So that will be really interesting. The battle for retail row will really be hotting up.
And
And
there's limited resources in retail as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how these players adapt, and I think a lot of adapting to these land environments and unexpected variables in your gameplay is having backup plans and having that preparation. Because if you don't have a backup spot to your main spot, you're probably not going to do well at land.
no, 100%. Like if you go into LAN with one plan and one plan only, like unless you get very lucky on the day, it becomes very hard for you to do well because apart from the finals where you know where everyone's going to land and you can have an idea, for qualifying, like anyone can be in your game. Like if people don't thank the bus driver, there's no way you know if they're in your game or not. You could literally go into a qualifying game and have retail by yourself, or you go into a game and have four of the best players in the world landing at retail row.
I think a lot of the players struggle from what I like to call booger syndrome. If you remember back in, I believe it was trios, booger used to land in what was that POI called with the big towers in the
Oh,
desert? Wow, it's not even that long ago, and I've already forgotten it.
God, new season. Can't even
Yeah,
remember it. No, I can't remember it.
Ples-
Oh, not
no,
Switzerland.
sorry, yeah,
Paradise Palms. Paradise.
Paradise Palms. There's this weird thing where if you play these scrims, you play these close scrims, you're never gonna get contested in these close scrims, so you're not gonna be used to having that kind of pressure of having spawn fights, for example. Which is why I call it booger syndrome, because in that final he got contested every single game. I believe died off spawn 4 or 5 times, causing him to not do too well in the FNCS finals back then. Which I think could be kind of interesting. I think in retail that's pretty much covered since Marine and Benji and Yaspe do constantly fight each other. But for other spots where people call it before, for example, Free Island, for example, it's going to be an issue because you're not used to having those spawn fights. You're not used to having that pressure. There's so many variables that you haven't even thought of, and you might not even expect on a land environment that could affect your gameplay.
No,
Uh,
exactly. And that's the thing. Like, it's completely different every single time. Like, different lands have different sort of players. And talking about the Booger one, yes, he went from winning the world to coming last in FNCS. And it's like, if you don't prepare in the right way, you're gonna do poorly in a big tournament. It always happens, especially in finals. If you go into finals not knowing who's landing on you and not having a second plan just in case your landing spot doesn't work, you can definitely ruin your game because of it. Most like if there's any advice I could give to any player, is in a big tournament, say you're in a final or if you're in a custom tournament with only 100 people in, always after the first game or always use the first game as information gathering. See, okay, what loot's been taken, where players have landed, where can you rotate, what places haven't been landed at. So you don't want to just have this big ego, which a lot of players do, which is
mhm.
I'm going to land here, you're going to leave. It's like I would rather like players leave and not have that ego and do better than someone who's 50-50 consistently at your spot. be the sort of bigger player and the smarter player and look around the map, see where's contested, see where's not, and use the first games always to gain information on what you can do for the next game.
I also think that it brings discussion to the inherent problem of the practice system we have. A lot of these practice servers are closed off to pros and friends of pros, and you don't have the opportunity to have those real situations where you practice. I think War Legends and Atlantis Legends are doing a good thing now, where you have these tiered systems where players can slowly build up towards those rankings. But at the upper echelon of competitive, the practice just isn't there. I feel like, where I think a lot of the players falter because they don't have that experience, they don't have that preparation. And you don't have those opportunities to adapt. For example, we can go on and on about the issues of War Legends tournaments, for example, of players trolling at the 6th or 5th game because there's no more incentive for them to win anymore. I think there's a bad mentality in Fortnite that is a pretty broad discussion as well.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that at the moment, Fortnite's in a weird spot in comparison to other esports where egos control the practice, which is it's never been the case in any other game. It's like if you want to practice, you can play your own practice. Like no one's gonna stop you. But now we have friend groups and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
who will like block you or ban you from calls if you kill them fairly. It's pretty unrealistic and unfair for a lot of upcoming players. But I think we went a bit off topic about Dreamhack. So to bring it back, we can talk about the player who was the at the negative and at the downfall from the griefing, someone known as Mr. Avagem, recently joined 100 Thieves,
Mm-hmm.
who did get stream sniped by Mitra and all them lot. Who I think is going there with a lot of pressure on him. He has just joined 100 Thieves. He's someone who has been doing well in 2020, has the highest PR or is top 2 for PR in EU, and is someone who is on hot form going into Anaheim, and it's someone I really think everyone should keep their eyes out for. What do you think?
I think, yeah, he has this. I think the thing is, he has this drop spot that allows him to have so much more opportunity. I myself am a huge fan of edge drop spot in LAN environments because it gives you so much more control. It gives you so much more opportunity to make free rotates on this edge. And I think a lot of his success definitely comes from his own playstyle and the way he plays, but it also comes from his drop. I'm a very big enforcer of drop spot wins games. Where we can see that with Ghost Assault's win last week in the Elite Cup, for example, where literally being uncontested means that he has these free rotations, he has these floppers to make him win those games. But I think there's Savage's game style and his gameplay goes a level beyond that. He is an insanely mechanical player, and he's definitely one of the players to watch out for. Not someone you would really expect on the LAN stage to perform well. I believe at World Cup he didn't do too hotly during the duo session with Benji, and I think this is one of his only LANs that he's attended. I don't believe he attended DreamHack last year, did he?
I don't believe he did. We can take a look, but I don't believe he did. And if he did, he didn't make it to finals.
Which is definitely problematic again, since that puts another level of pressure on you.
He did. He came 14th in 14th in DreamHack Winter. We definitely miss. I actually don't remember.
That's crazy because I don't remember him at all. Which might say something about the level or the level of play he brought to that tournament. Let's see. Yeah, he got 14th here. Yeah, that's kind of crazy that I don't remember him at all.
No, exactly. That's just very strange. But that actually helps his case a lot, which I think I also had in the back of my mind where I was like, do I really think he's going to be one of the best there? Because he has been doing well in solos, and I think he's got this meta that this is the last time this meta will be played. The Season 1, Chapter 2 meta will be played at Anaheim, and he has his meta down to a T. I think maybe the LAN might be a problem, but the fact he came 14th in the last LAN actually puts him in puts a good case for him to do even better this LAN.
Yeah, for sure. It means he has that sort of preparation. But keep in mind, DreamHack Winter was a good 4 months ago. So there's a lot of time in between that. But I think he definitely has. I think he's performed over. He's overperformed from our expectations. What do you think? What do you attribute his insane growth to these last few months?
I think it's a mixture of two things. I think his landing spot. I think he didn't really have a landing spot. Finally nailed this landing spot, which means he can have the same rotate every single game and understands how to play the game out. But also, I think he has this motivation from the fact that other people in the community, and especially we can talk about It Gang, and I won't attribute too much to it, but the fact they always like grief him and stuff like that, it just gives him this extra motivation to sort of do better, to be the best. He has that motivation. There's two types of players who want to keep people down to be the best, so like blocking them, banning them from customs, all this stuff to keep them above. And then there's Savage, who wants to be the best by continuing to get better than his peers. And I feel like that motivation he has, he's constantly VOD reviewing, he's constantly streaming, he's constantly doing customs, he's constantly doing everything he can to be the best. And it's showing in these cash cups. Like, he went from not placing in cash cups at all to now placing week in, week out in cash cups. I think this motivation and this like fire in his heart, which is now like, I'm going to do the best. And I think that's completely changed it.
It's who you surround yourself with. I think it's something you can also attribute to school. For example, the people that you surround yourself with impact the performance in other things. If you have people who want to study and who are grinding to improve, then it's going to bring you up as well. I believe he squatted with players like Tohaj, for example, who are insanely smart players. So I think he definitely had a lot of importance there. That I think Tohaj probably has a massive influence on him, since he is someone who relies full time on this game to make a living, right? He's a streamer, but he's also a competitive player, and he's one of the older players in the competitive scene. So he has that motivation. He probably instilled some of that and some of those values into Mr. Savage himself as well. And I think it's weird because the community also, there's this weird thing in the community where you see these players succeeding, you see these Benjis, these Mongols, these Mitros succeeding, and you only see the fronts, right? You see the Twitter, you see the YouTube, you see them calling people shit, see them calling people ass. These guys are dog shit, man. And it all looks really easy, but what you don't see is the background. You don't see what they do in the background. You don't see Mongol grinding out creative for 8 hours a day, which he definitely does. I think you've said that before. He sits in creative hours upon hours a day, constantly working on his mechanics, but you don't see that at the front. You just see them shitting on people, and you don't see that work ethic. It might seem easy, it might seem natural to a lot of players, but they put in the hard work in the end, which I think Mr. Savage definitely does. I don't think. Have you ever seen his documentary that they made on him?
Oh, I never got round to watching it. No,
I haven't really seen it either, but I've seen clips of it, of the way he approaches Fortnite and the game as a whole. He treats it like a real sport. He has a coach. He has a mentor coach. He has these support systems behind him which help him succeed. And he's one of the few players that actually take the game insanely seriously. And practices every single day. I think he also has recently changed up his binds, which I think is a huge factor to success, since he used to edit with Y somehow or another with his massively long fingers. I don't know how he does that, but he's recently optimized his bind, and I think it's brought him to the next level.
Yeah, exactly. And also we can talk about how, like, if we think about, he still goes to school, and I don't know if he still does now, but he did still go to school. And I think going to school and getting that sort of like mental reset, not just being like, I'm playing Fortnite 24/7, or I'm coaching 24/7, or I'm casting 24/7. It gives you that like different perspective. You go out, you go to school, and you come back with a different perspective. You go out, you come back with a different perspective. You never come back with the exact same perspective. If you sat here and played the game constantly, like, you'd burn out. Like, and I don't think Savage is really someone to burn out. And as you said, like, all these support system allows him to be at the top of his game for as long as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you bring up with the school thing. Someone who also still goes to school, for example, is Unknown Army, and he has massive success in cash cups and recently in a lot of the tournaments. But I think that the trap a lot of players come into is that, yeah, I have to go to school. I don't have much time. I need to do this, this, and this. And I don't have times to do X, X, and X. Which is, I just feel like is kind of a cop out in the end. Since these players still succeed, they still find the time to practice. And having that mental reset every single day of keeping your mind off the game, and then as soon as you come back home, you switch it back on, I think is good for the mentality point of view, for the mental side of the game. It makes you not too heavily invested into your game, because sitting in a game, sitting behind the computer, playing the game 8 hours a day isn't healthy. And smacking your head against the wall, doing the same thing over and over again, cranking in creative, listening to Juice World 8 hours a day isn't going to help make you become the best player. For some players, it might work for sure. Like a lot of Mongo's success can be attributed to those grinding hours. But for a long career in esports, having longevity in an esport, the way that Savage and Unknown Army, and also Kanada apparently doesn't go to school either, also goes to school as well. I think that's definitely the way to go. You can't focus on the game 8 hours a day. You need to take other aspects and take that break, because Fortnite, it might be your career, but it can't take over your life.
No, exactly. And like anyone in any other job say, I don't want to work 20 hours a day. And even in football, it's like, or in any other sport, it's like, I'm not going to be playing football 12 hours a day. My muscles will hurt. I will
Mm-hmm.
get physically unfit. I might get injured. And that's the exact same as like I might mentally start to hurt. I might get mentally drained. I might start to not take the game like, because when you take your time out, and like say for example you go to school and you come back at 4 o'clock and you've only got 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock, you're going to spend those 6 hours with serious practice.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you have from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock and you have 14 hours, you're not going to take those 14 hours fully seriously. And by the time the practice comes at like 3-4 o'clock, that those times you spent before, it's just going to be wasted because you're going to be mentally drained by the time customs come around. You're not going to be fully practicing. Like being full time is a risky move if you don't have the support staff behind you to allow you to perform at the highest level.
I think that's also why a lot of people meme players for dropping out of school all of a sudden. It's because I strongly believe that you don't have to be a full-time player to succeed in this game. You need the brain, like every single muscle, is a muscle. Well, I'm not anatomically speaking if it is a muscle. I'm not that smart, but I believe it works the same way as a muscle. You need to keep that rest. You have to have it rested. You can't constantly focus on the same thing. It's just not going to work out in the end.
No, exactly.
You can do things to help you with it. You could lead a healthier lifestyle. You could have better sleep schedules. But most practice and customs just end up starting at 6 or 7 p.m. at night, and you have that whole day doing nothing. Where you could become a productive member of society. You could do other things with your life, other than Fortnite, since a longevity, a career, longevity in a career in esports is, for a lot of these younger players, just not possible, since you're making millions at 14 years old, but as soon as you hit 16 and Fortnite dies out, you won't transition into a managing role. You won't transition into an analytical role, since a lot of those roles require some sort of superiority, or some sort of age requirement.
No, exactly. And I think that's why players like Unknown Army and Savage are doing well. And now we can go on to talking about Unknown Army and how we think he's gonna do in
Mm-hmm.
Dreamhack. And I think he's going into this mindset, and I think it's his second land. He went to World Cup last year under Kungana. This year I don't think he's under Kungana anymore. I think he just got
He's a
out
free
of
agent. I
he's
think
a
he got
free agent.
signed recently, but everyone's memeing that it's TSM. But I don't think there's
Yeah.
any real notes on to who he's joining yet. Maybe
Mm,
it might get revealed.
Yeah, maybe he gets revealed just like Savage did. But no,
Mm-hmm.
I think Unknown's someone who, it's a weird one to think about, and we can attribute some of his playstyle to someone like Wolfies and how he did Winter. And Wolfies was someone who breezed past the qualifiers, breezed past the semis, and got to finals. And to put it bluntly, he choked. He
Mm-hmm.
came in the bottom 10 10 players. He tried his W key play style. It didn't work. He got toxic. He started streaming. He started purposely griefing players. He started purposely landing on players. Like, this is something you can't do at a LAN. And I know Unknown takes the game a lot more seriously, in my opinion, than Wolfies, because Wolfies, if you have seen the recent drama about the practice flick cord and where he was purposely griefing that, I haven't heard anything from that about Unknown. You know, Unknown still got that same ego, but that play style can come to bite you in the butt if you don't have the right support staff, as in coaches especially. You don't have the right plans in place to take smart fights. You're going to end up just taking random fights, getting third party, and not being able to do what you need to do.
I think it's also a respect thing, right? Wolfies made about $1 million at World Cup. I think that definitely has an effect on how you play this game, right? He already has made himself set. He's set, right? He has made that money. He has that like accolade underneath him. Whereas Unknown Army qualified for World Cup, but in the end it only got 69th place. It's not he hasn't really gotten that medal yet. He hasn't gotten that dub on the big stage yet. So I think he's definitely a lot more focused, and it goes back to the discussion of schooling. I think it humbles a person. I believe Wolfies is full time, if I want to say.
I think so as well.
I think with that amount of money he would be full time, even though I don't think it is the right move. But I think it definitely humbles a player, and it changes their mindset. And when you have the limited hours per day to grind and focus on the game, you take it a lot more seriously. If you have 16 hours a day, like Wolfies probably does, by the time you hit that time where you scrim, you've already played the game for 8-10 hours a day, and you're probably already done with it. Your brain's already tired of it and is focusing on different things. You're not fully focused.
No, exactly. And for me personally, I think Unknown is a different kettle of fish. And for someone who believes in EU, and I want EU to be the best region, I think, and a lot of people might disagree with me here, I think Unknown is, in my opinion, the best controller player in the world right now, in my opinion. I think his play style and how he plays, I think first of all he has unbelievable aim. I think his aim's unreal. I think the fights he takes a lot of the time are pretty smart for the majority of the time. And I think at this tournament, I think it will show that he is one of the best controller players in the world, if not, as I said, the best controller player in the world. I think he, as you said, he has that drive, he has that passion, he goes to school, he understands there's more to life than just Fortnite. He knows this is an opportunity, he's taking it as an opportunity, not just taking the mick with it. And I think he's going to take this very, very seriously. And I think maybe we won't see Unknown like we did Wolfies breeze through qualifiers, but what we might see is him consistently get kills, but play late game as well, because you've seen him pop off in late games multiple times. But what we see from Wolfies is a lot of early and mid game kills.
I think Unknown Army would benefit from an organization. I think right now he's unsigned, so there's a lot less responsibility and a lot less pressure to actually place. But I think if he has that, there's for sure he has a support staff behind him, right? He definitely has some sort of coaching. I think if he does have that team to represent, I think he would he would probably focus up a little bit more. But I think he has those values instilled into him where he has that focus, and I expect big things from him this LAN. I definitely think there is a high chance he makes it into the top 5, especially after his performance during the Elite Cup.
Yeah, 100%. I think and we were talking about friend groups and surrounding yourself with the right people. Well, we can just talk about the people he's around. He's around Clix and Ronaldo and those sort of players who all are doing as well as he is. Maybe not as well, sorry. Doing similarly to how he is. They are performing in FNCS. They're performing in solo cash cups. They're performing in Winter Royale. They're all trying to perform. Like, it's very rare you see friend groups. And I don't like the word friend groups or discords where players are performing but others aren't, because they all want to help each other out. And I think we might see that sort of group of people, Ronaldo, Clix, and Unknown, do really well in this tournament.
Yeah, you definitely. You see. I think you see a lot of those friend groups just all of a sudden rise. I can name a few friend groups off the top of my head who have players who before Chapter 10 had zero placements, zero earnings, maybe $200 earnings in total, and all of a sudden they're out here making squad FCS finals and stuff. So it's definitely, if you are considering a career in Fortnite, surround yourself with the people who are going to help you. Surround yourself with people who want to VOD with you, who want to sit there in calls and help you out, who want to play box fights every single day with you, that want to play customs, they want to practice. Those are the kind of people you want to have in your friend group. You don't want to have the people who are clouded if they're not the ones that are focusing and they're not going to be helping you succeed in your career in Fortnite.
No, exactly. And I think that is just so important that you just, and if you take anything away, it's just surround yourself with the right people. Don't do always put yourself first, even if there are people like you maybe like or whatever. If you don't feel like they're benefiting your life in any way or benefiting you as a person, then there's no need to hang around with them. There's plenty of nice people around who always want to improve or always want to have a laugh with you. Like, that you don't have to sort of sit there and sort of be put down and all that sort of stuff. But
you shouldn't be afraid of leaving your friend group if they aren't the type of people you want to hang out with, for sure.
exactly, 100%.
I think one player we've actually just forgotten about completely is Epic Whale. I think that's also a player that a lot of people sleep on as well. Is Epic Whale is someone who kind of flies under the radar. He's not the most well-known player. He has pretty big socials, but he's a player that also constantly places. And I think the discussion of Epic Whale is kind of interesting because he's one of the first players to actually adopt that hybrid style of gameplay, where he plays on keyboard and mouse for the majority of the game, and as soon as he hits that late game, he picks up the controller and he slams that L2 button. What do you think? Do you think this is the new meta? Do you think all players should be adopting this strategy?
I think it's a really, I don't know if interesting is the word. I think it's just really, it's odd. It's so odd. But no, I think it's really cool for someone to feel comfortable enough on both inputs. They can use both, because if that's the case, go ahead. Like, I personally think that if you can do it, do it. Like, there's players like Left Eye who's now switching straight over to controller, and he still has the potential to be on KBM. Like, I think if you can do it, do it. I think there's clear benefits for both. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do it LAN, because I don't know what the rules are, whether you can have a controller and a keyboard at your setup. But if you can, then 100%, I feel free. I don't know if it'll become the meta, but it's definitely a benefit if you can. Definitely.
I think especially with the new changes to the map and stuff, I think it definitely has to be something a lot of these pros have in the back of their mind. I think Clix even started up picking up the controller in some of the games and seeing how that works. I definitely think it might be the next step. I think that there's a ceiling we've hit right now in terms of mechanics, and I think the next step is going over towards being hybrids, and gaining those advantages wherever you can, because there are clear advantages. There's no doubt about that. You just have to take advantage of it and put in the work.
Yeah, 100%. But no, talking back about Epic Whale, for someone who we all completely forget about when it comes to lands, he came third in World Cup.
Yep.
Like, it's crazy we always forget about him. And I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves, because he gets respect because, okay, to say the word, people call him a boomer. They say, oh, boomer baller player who did well at World Cup, and then there's like Bugger who did well, and then Mongrel had his pop off, but no one says, oh, Epic Whale came third. No one says that ever.
Nope.
They talk about everyone else but Epic Whale, and I think this is his chance to fully put his name into the history books. If in front of like one of the biggest solo tournaments we've had probably since World Cup, this is one of the better times for him to go, okay, I can do it on this stage. And I definitely think he can. I definitely think he'll be making finals. I definitely think he's the type of player who can perform. And it all just depends on whether he turns up on the day. But I think he has the potential to do so. He has the mechanics. He's a smart player. Any Westers has this, to go back to support staff, as necessary support, it has a really good scrim scene. I think Epic World has all of the resources to perform when he needs it most.
Yeah, the NA West scrim scene is insane. If you look at the tweets that are coming out from all these West players, I personally aren't able to watch it since it's just insanely late for me. But definitely, I think it's Epic Will's tournament to win. I feel like he's one of my players to watch out for. Him alongside of Unknown Army. are definitely the two that I believe are gonna make it in. I'm gonna bring up a show. Who do you think? Who is your player to win the tournament?
God, there's a lot of players. So I was going back and forth, and there was a couple players I was thinking maybe unknown, maybe Clicks does it,
Mm.
maybe someone from NE West. I was thinking maybe Turtle Tavern has it because he's been doing well in customs. But overall, I've got to support the EU. EU represent. Mr. Savage M is going to win Dreamhack Anaheim.
Wow.
Now, my reasonings behind this, and the main reason behind this is his motivation, and his motivation is fire he has in him. Like, I think anything that happens to him, he's not gonna worry. He's gonna take it on the chin. He's gonna move. He did well at DreamHack Winter, which we discussed. He's doing well in Cash Cups. He did well in FNCS. Well, he didn't do well in FNCS. He did well in the Fishy Cups after FNCS and squads, which showed he had the potential to do well in FNCS if things went his way. I genuinely think Mr. Savage M is one of the best players in the world right now, and I think he is the best solo player going to Anaheim. So for that reason, I think Savage will win Anaheim.
What a bold prediction. Not really though.
Yeah.
I think yeah. I think Mr. Savage definitely is amongst the EU players the one to watch. I think it'll be interesting to see how he places in LAN after a kind of I would say for him a disappointing winter. I think he probably expected a lot more from that.
Well, who do you think? Who is your winner? If there was standing up at the podium, who is number one? Who is the person you expect there the most?
Well, I mentioned this player previously, and I think it's a player who you don't expect to win. It's not someone who's shiny, who's flashy, but all of a sudden, it's your boy Zayt on the high ground. He's there. He's on high ground. I don't know how he does it. He has something he just pulls out of it. He's the magician of high ground. It's Zayt. It has to be Zayt. I think he's definitely... He's a player who succeeds on LAN. He's got that buff. He drinks that magical potion, and I think he is going to be the one to take it. If not him, it's probably going to be a controller scrimmer, Unknown Army. I think he also... I think it's kind of cheating to take two people. Gives me a high chance of being correct.
I didn't get two people.
But I think, yeah, him or Unknown Army are my top picks for this tournament for sure.
No, I think Zayt's a very, very good point. I think Zayt is someone who, weirdly enough, he doesn't float under the radar for people in the comp scene, but for people who are casual watchers of the competitive scene, because he doesn't stream, he's not that big of a personality on Twitch, but he's a big personality on Twitter. It's someone who you always forget about, and as you said, it's like, oh, we're watching the game, it's like, oh, Zayt's on high ground, how did he do that?
Yeah.
It's just sort of, he has this like sort of methodical way of just playing the game, and he just always ends up in the right spots at the right time because he's so good at rotating around the map. So yeah, I totally agree. I expect to see Zayt top 10 at least, 100%.
I think it's funny that it's nobody knows too much about him. It's because he never streams. He never shares anything. He was one of him alongside Saf, who we also mentioned, but we have no idea where he's landing. They always hide the information. They're one of the few players that don't stream the scrims. They hide every single piece of information. They don't talk about what they're doing, and I think that's attributes to part of the success on LAN is that they have that wow factor, they have that unknown factor that nobody knows what they're gonna do. Nobody knows what they're gonna pull out. Nobody knows where they're landing, so there's no way to counterplay them. I think that's part of that land buff that Zayt has, and I think also Saf, who we have in our list here but we don't have on the infographic, is also one of those players who isn't the flashiest, but he's gonna succeed and do well.
No, 100%. But no, I think that is essentially where I believe Anaheim's going to go. I believe, as you said, I probably would agree with Unknown as well. Those are my top really three players who I think are going to perform. I think it would be Savage 1, Unknown 2, and Zayt 3. There's obviously other top players who we haven't even discussed about, as we said.
There's too many to name.
Yeah, way too many to go. It would take us hours and hours and hours to go through every single player.
For sure.
Discuss every single one. But no.
Well, I think that was a pretty productive session we had here. To close off this talk, a quick little shade. Let's see, who do you think is going to be the most disappointing player? Who's going to go spend all that big money going over towards LA, and who's going to flop?
Oh, you didn't have to do this to me. I didn't want to do this? Oh, let me think.
I have to. I have to. We have to. You have to. You have to see the best and the worst.
So my person who I think is going to perform the worst, not perform the worst in comparison to their expectations.
Yeah. Who has the most hype? Or maybe not the most hype, but who is someone you would expect to perform, but isn't?
I'm going to have to say, it's someone we talked about today. I think Marin. I think
Wow.
Marin has this hype going. Be a lot, even there's no official broadcast on Twitch. There's gonna be a lot of people who are like, "What's Marin doing? How he's doing?" I don't think, because we talked about how many people are landing retail. I don't think he will do anywhere near as well as he did in Dreamhack Winter. Unfortunately, I think he has too much pressure on him. He went in as a nobody and he won it. Now he's going in with all this pressure. It's a completely different ball game for him. Completely different for him.
And his playstyle has also just been analyzed over and over and over again. There's so many how Marine won DreamHack Winter videos out there on YouTube that I think he has this pressure to change something up. And with Benji landing there as well, it's gonna be super hard for him to succeed. But yeah, me dodging that question you just asked.
I can't ask it and
I know. I was expecting, and I was thinking in the back of my mind which one I would choose. I think for me it would have to be someone like Clicks. I love the guy, but I think him on a competitive environment on the LAN scene, I don't think he's not gonna perform. And I think the way he has his mental game isn't probably the strongest. And I think he's a player that might look at the situation where he gets contested and he gives up after 3 games and just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm just gonna W key people and see what happens and bring my mechanics to light. Maybe kind of like a Wolfies did during Dreamhack Winter. I think we can definitely expect a similar situation where he's gonna die or spawn twice or 3 times and then he's just gonna give up. Unfortunately. But I hope he succeeds. But I think he's definitely has high expectations, definitely an insane player, but I don't think he is gonna live up to the hype and the well-deserved hype that he deserves of being an insane mechanical player. I just don't think I don't think he has the formula to make it on LAN.
No, 100%. Sadly, I'm gonna have to disagree, but I totally understand the point. I think Clicks, because he's in that group with Ronaldo and Unknown. I think all of them come top 20. I think Clicks will do well in qualifying and in semis. I think finals he'll have 3 good games, but the rest he might struggle. But no, I understand your point of view, and I would probably say the same about Wolfies. I think you'll have that sort of mentality where you might get contested and then drop off from there.
But who knows? Clicks hasn't been seen on LAN for a long time as well, right? He didn't go to Dreamhack Winter. I think his last LAN was I want to say
World Cup.
Was it World Cup? Let's see. I think it was TwitchCon 2019. I think.
Oh yeah, he did well at TwitchCon.
He got 25th.
Oh, wait, did he?
He got 25th.
I remember him 1v3ing on LAN. And
he did 1v3 on LAN, but he got 25th place at TwitchCon. So,
okay, so ignore my point. He did pretty poor. I just remember watching that clip. I was like, "Yo, he actually popping off. What am I seeing?" And yeah, just ignore that. He definitely
like I said, he's insane, but I think typically he doesn't. I don't think he's going to do that well in these kind of situations. And he might prove us wrong. He might have worked on his mental game. He might have had some sort of LAN training, hopefully, for him. And I'm hoping he surprises us. Any last finishing remarks before we end it here?
Finishing remarks? Personally, I just can't wait. I can't wait for what Fortnite esports has for us. I can't wait for DreamHack, and I can't wait for everything. Overall, I think that, like, we talked about the season and we talked about Anaheim, and all it's done is made me excited for the next tournament to be announced, because there's so many talking points. We could talk about that. We can talk about meta. We can talk about everything like that. But when it comes to Anaheim, I think it's sad to see this Chapter 2 Season 1 go in terms of comp, and it'll be really good to sort of crown a king of that chapter, that season, shall we say.
I think this is definitely a fitting end to the end of the chapter, since now who knows what's gonna happen, who knows what kind of weird spanner is gonna be thrown into the competitive woodwork. And I think DreamHack is definitely a tournament. If you aren't going to be watching it, you should be watching it if you consider yourself any sort of fan of Fortnite. I know for sure we'll be watching it, and we'll be watching it live on your Twitch channel, right?
Yes, we'll be doing a viewing party on my Twitch channel, which will be starting at 12 o'clock, and we'll be going till late on, and then we'll probably be doing I'll be doing viewing parties all the way through the weekend, making sure we keep you up to date with what's happening, keep you up to date with the leaderboards, and making sure to interact with you guys so it's a nice experience for everyone, so we can all watch it and enjoy.
And if for the smaller brained people out there, we can show off our big brain and teach you what they're doing wrong, and hopefully help you guys a little bit out.
We gotta show it off one.
Exactly, because we as coaches love to be right, for sure. Well, thank you so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And if you are going to be watching Dreamhack, make sure to stop by Harry's stream. What is your stream, Harry?
It's twitch.tv/VHV_Harry. So VHV_Harry, you can find it and follow me there, and I'll be live. I might be live later tonight. I'll be most likely doing just chilling and talking to chat, but 100% live tomorrow, viewing party.
For sure, go check him out. He does great stuff. And also follow him on Twitter, VHV Harry on Twitter. That's it from us, guys. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure you tune into the viewing party. Have yourselves a good night and goodbye.
Alright, see you in a bit.